Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. We're live from Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are live on Love 99.5 FM and affiliates across the 16 regions of Ghana, including Dreams FM in Bogatanga, Sky FM in Sunyang, and ATL FM in Cape Coast. You can also download the My Joy online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live wherever you are in the world. In this edition, stranded technical university students across the country unhappy with strike by members of TUTAC, arguing the industrial action will worsen the already disrupted academic activities.
Whoever is responsible to deal towards it must find a way to help us so that at least the one way we can do something with our lives, not to waste our time.
We'll get an update on the situation on campuses in Accra, Kumasi and Tamale. Government reveals that it's in talks with countries including US and China to procure more vaccines as scientists express concern about the involvement of middlemen in acquiring the drugs from Russia.
If I can get vaccine at less than $10, as you can, you don't buy vaccines. Vaccines are not tomatoes.
We'll hear from Presidential Advisor on Health, who is assuring there will be so much vaccines by the third quarter of this year. Police in Accra mount intensive surveillance in crime hotspots to combat recent wave of violent crimes in the capital. We have details as investigators pick up 5 persons in connection with smash and rob attacks on the Gimpa bypass.
The Gimpa Street we used to have only 3 snap checkpoints. Now we have augmented the number. Now we have 5, together with the motorbike patrols and what have you.
In sports.
How safe are players at Ghana football match venues? We hear from medical practitioner Dr. Prince Pambo in the wake of Danish midfielder Christian Eriksen's cardiac arrest during a Euro 2020 game.
And later in the bulletin, why musician Akwabua says you don't have to change.
The wise men follow the star just like I followed my heart and I found a miracle as you. Intriguing, exciting, most of it all.
We hear from the musician on his latest release, Nsisa, which has been on the YouTube trending list. That and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. You want to stay for details. We're a home of bold, credible and fearless journalism. This afternoon, stranded technical university students across the country say they are bearing the brunt of the industrial action being embarked on by members of the Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana, TUTAC. The association announced that its members will embark on a partial strike today, results, and attend meetings of any of the technical universities. Well, the strike appears to be biting and students are worse affected. Let's start from the Accra Technical University, from where Joy News' Judith Awotretando reports.
So I'm here at the Accra Technical University, where the TUTAC strike is gradually taking effect, while some examinations on the 15th of August.
Yeah, it's going to affect us because we students, we need to learn to improve daily, and we are supposed to learn to head into another level, and we are supposed to be learning every day. So that for the teachers not teaching, it's going to affect us very, 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 very severe.
Yeah, for me, so that I'll get my first class or whatever I wish to get. So going on strike at this time, I don't think it's appropriate.
So the situation in Kumasi, Love FM's Prince Apia has been monitoring the impact of the strike there. Prince, what can you report?
Administrators that you could see around, but
hello, Prince Apia. Okay, so it appears my colleague Prince Apia is unable to hear us, but we'll get a sense of the situation in Tamale, and my colleague Martina Bugri has been monitoring the situation, but she's been speaking to some students.
We came, we didn't even say any lecture on campus, so we decided to wait when 12 o'clock and we'll go back to our various schools.
Friday we heard about it. Actually, we heard it on Friday, but then we didn't know it would be serious today. So when we came, we called the lecturers and since we even resumed, this is the 4th week. We haven't had any serious class, and then it's left with about 4 weeks for us to finish class and then write exam. And this is the 4th week. We have 4 weeks left, which
So that's the situation in Tamale. My colleague Martina Bugri has been monitoring the situation there. She joins us on the line. Martina, what can you report?
What I can report is that it's taking a serious effect in the Tamale Technical University. You go through the school and you won't find any single lecture hall with lecturers. The lecture halls are eventually empty. Just a few students are in the lecture halls studying on their own. Most of them are roaming in the campus. There's no lectures is actually taking place. And the students are worried that if this persists, it definitely will affect the academic work because some lecturers are even yet to start their syllabus. And so it's a big worry to them. They think that government should listen to these lecturers and then they get back to the class.
That's my colleague Martina Bugri there from the northern region. I'll take you back to the Ashanti region where Love FM's Prince Apia joins us now. Prince, what's the situation where you are?
Since the time I went on campus, the students are very confused and worried. Most of them, especially the weekend students, started feeling a pinch right from the weekend. No lecture have visited any of the classrooms to teach them. As I speak to the final year students, for instance, are worried because they are expected to graduate later this year and their project work and theses are all been halted. On campus, the classrooms are empty. Nothing is really happening. The students are just trying to make good the strike by trying to learn on their own, MFR.
Thank you very much. Love FM's Prince Apia there. Meanwhile, President of TUTAG, Dr. Michael Brigandi, has hinted of an emergency meeting with the National Labour Commission on Wednesday. He tells Joy News the expectation will be strictly based on a permanent solution to their conditions of service.
We've had invitation from the National Labour Commission to appear on Wednesday together with the various parties that are more or less in charge of addressing the issues that we've raised. TUTAG as a union is expecting nothing more than the practical commencement of the resolution of our problems. TUTAG is not interested in long meetings. TUTAG is not interested in promises because we've gone past promises. We have a lot of documents to show that we have been doing the same thing over and over and yielding no results.
That's the president of TUTAG, Dr. Michael Brigandi there. Will stay a while longer on education front because all students of Achimota School are cautioning against the imposition of decisions on the management of school administrators without their express consent. They warn that this could erode years of successful school administration with time-tested mechanisms. Last month, an Accra High Court ordered the Achimota School to admit 2 Rastafarian students who had refused to cut their locks on religious grounds. But speaking at an annual general meeting at the Old Achimota Association, president of the OAA and former vice chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Aite, said forcing change could be dangerous for school administration.
We live in a time that I would describe as an extension of modern liberalism, an African version of that, you know. Some they describe as post-modern. So there are many things that are changing around us, some of which we can control, some of which we cannot control. They happen, and you learn to live with them. But when you see change being forced in a manner that defies your basic rules and will lead to other things that you cannot do anything about, it becomes your responsibility to say, slow down. Let us manage change slowly. It is always good for institutions, whether the church, whether it's universities, whether it's schools, to manage change gradually and not have it foisted on you, as is happening in this case. It is not about 2 Rasta young men. I've seen them, I met them in court. They look to me like nice young men. They don't look, especially in Caribbean. But I need to be thinking about the bigger picture. Where is this postmodernism leading us? Where will it end? Who will come next? Who are those riding behind this? There are people who are taking advantage of what is going on, not because they believe in Rastafarianism, but it's
That's the president of the OAA and former vice chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Ayete. From the education, we move to the health front, and government has revealed it is in talks with countries, including the US and China, to procure more vaccines. This comes as the minority in parliament and some scientists express concern about the involvement of third parties in acquiring the drugs from Russia. Minority spokesperson on health, Kwabena Minta Akando, says government's decision to engage businessmen in the purchase of the drugs will come at a great cost to the country. He spoke on the probe with me yesterday.
At the government to government level, we should be seeing the results. It is not Dr. Nsiasare who should be telling us, oh, we are engaging. If you are engaging, what is the results? Number two, you should check the press statement from the Ministry of Health, paragraph 4 and paragraph 5. They clearly stated that effort to engage these government to government and manufacturers has not yielded any fruit. As I speak to you now, are you aware that Ghana is on the executive board of WHO? So if we cannot use all these connections to secure vaccines for our country, then what are we doing? He also made mention of the fact that if I can get vaccine at less than $10, I should come. You don't buy vaccines. Vaccines are not tomatoes. Even if I can, I should not be allowed to do that. That is why there's government. There's a proper channel. And that is where they are eyeing. You see, if we have people advising the president in this direction, instead of advising the president to concentrate on manufacturers and government to government, he's throwing it out there that anybody who has it, that's where we are giving the opportunity for intermediaries to come in. And we don't do that. That will not help the country.
That's the ranking member on the Health Committee in Parliament, Kwabena Minta Kando. Now, virologist with the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research, Dr. John Amwesi, agrees. He explains why the involvement of third-party men is worrying.
So forget about the price. I don't want to get into that discussion. But the very involvement of third parties is inimical to public health in itself. And to think about it, Ghana actually has been part of the Gavi board before. And by virtue of our status as a lower middle income country, if we are seen to be able to go out there and purchase through third parties, it actually limits our negotiation power if we want to receive things for free. I'm just talking pure public health here. So it is really not in our interest to be engaging in third parties in the purchase of vaccines. I may not understand the complexity involved in what is available, the accessibility and all that, but just the concept of third parties in here is not helpful.
That's Dr. John Amwesi, but Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Anthony Nsiasare, says there's no cause for concern. He assures government's engagement with other countries will result in abundant quantities of the vaccines by the third quarter of this year.
The problem is that the engagement of third party is something which not government is encouraging. Government is encouraging diplomatic sources. As I said, government is talking to the US government, the EU, also Russia, even China, and everywhere that they are manufacturing vaccines. And that is where we want to get our vaccines from. So that should be said.
So quickly, this contract that we've heard or we've seen go around, which we are engaging middlemen with the pricing and all, I'm sure, I don't know, you are the presidential advisor on this. I'm sure that you'd want to tell us, because we are told, we've heard from, civil society, we've heard from minority, all asking for an abrogation of that particular contract. Is there really a decision on that? Because you've mentioned that you are not engaging middlemen, but we've seen that contract. Is there a decision particularly on that? Are we abrogating that and then deal directly with the government?
I think every contract has got this contract text. So the ministry signed a contract. They will look at all the contract terms and see if they have to abrogate it. I'm very sure that after the end of the third quarter of this year, there will be so much vaccines in the country that we can have enough vaccines to vaccinate Ghanaians.
That's the Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Anthony Nsiasare, speaking on the probe on the Joy News channel last night. Now, police in the Greater Accra region have increased surveillance in crime hotspots in the capital. This follows a recent wave of violent crimes, including armed robbery and other attacks. Only last week, 2 people were shot in broad daylight in separate robbery attacks at Pig Farm and Osu, leaving 1 dead. Also, some users of the Gimpa bypass had their car windows smashed and their belongings robbed. We'll hear from Accra Region Police PRO, SP Ifia Tingi shortly, but first, here's a report cataloguing all the incidents from last week.
Over the past 1 week alone, There have been at least 4 separate incidents of violent attacks in Accra. These incidents, which were mainly armed robbery attacks, started from the Gimpa bypass. The suspects involved hid in nearby bushes and smashed the side glass of incoming vehicles in an attempt to rob occupants. On Wednesday, June 9, there were 2 armed robbery incidents involving gun-wielding men on motorbikes. In the first of the 2 incidents, the robbers accosted the victim, fired 5 warning shots when he resisted, and subsequently shot him in the stomach, leaving blood splattered on a section of the road. In the second incident, 3 gun-wielding men arrived on motorbikes and entered a Forex bureau around the Honeysuckle pub just a few meters away from the police headquarters. They shot 2 workers and robbed them of their monies. On Saturday evening at about 9:30 p.m., a male driver informed the Achimota School District Police during a patrol of being attacked by 2 armed men. The driver, who had been shot then, led the police to the crime scene, and upon arrival, the 2 robbers fled the scene as they escaped to nearby forest. The police have made at least 5 arrests in connection with the crimes over the week. It is, however, advising robbery victims to formally file complaint on their experiences to the nearest police station.
We can now hear from Accra Region Police PRO, Ifya Tenge, who says the surveillance will be sustained and extended to other parts of the region to clamp down on perpetrators. She's been speaking on the Super Morning Show.
That particular stretch, there was one that was also arrested on Friday. Then the first 5 I spoke to you about, those were the cases that we have at the Gimpa Street, that is by the Achimota District Police. So just this weekend, 5, plus the whole of the year until now, we have also not arrested less than 5.
Okay,
There's only one that we've had conviction of 17 years.
17 years. So for
so let's say 9.
9, but for the crimes over the last week, 5 of them.
That is 5.
5 of them
exactly.
have been arrested. Now, have these persons been? You talked about investigations being conducted. Have they been processed for court? Have they been taken to court? Are they on remand? What's happened to them?
Okay, the Saturday one, I think he got injured, and so he's with the police now assisting investigations. Then again, the one, yes, for enhancing police presence and also police measures. One, first of all, I told you that because of the reports we were receiving, we had earlier intensified or reviewed some of our strategies. And I believe that because we have reviewed our strategy, now the Gimpa Street we used to have only 3 snap checkpoints. Now we have augmented the number. Now we have 5, together with the motorbike patrols and what have you. Then again, we also have our plainclothes, personnel who sometimes go around, that is doing their own surveillance to also feed the operational men with information.
That's the Accra Region Police PRO Ifya Tenge there speaking earlier on the Super Morning Show. I'll take you to Parliament, where the majority there is calling the bluff of the minority over threats. They will pull brakes on the appointment of Martin A.J. Mensah-Korsah as Deputy Minister for Local Government and Rural Development. The minority boycotted his vetting last week over unresolved issues surrounding the violence that characterized the 2020 elections in Techiman South that led to the death of 2 persons. The minority has served notice it will not support his approval at the plenary. NPP MP for Equiapim South, Obi Amwa, says it is the majority which will decide his fate, not the minority.
You can comment on the report, all right. You may even raise the issue that you think it should not be accepted. But your grounds should be based on his qualification when he appeared before us, and whether he was really qualified to be commended to the House.
So the expectation is that they probably shouldn't even partake in whatever the approval processes will be.
For those that they didn't come, yes, that is what I expect from them. But if they choose to reverse what they've done today and come and debate, we are ready. We'll debate, and then eventually, if they think that because they didn't take part, it shouldn't be by consensus, the process will go on.
In fact, the indication they've given is that they will make sure the House rejects his approval on the floor.
I mean, at the end of the day, we vote. Yeah. The majority will decide whether the person should be approved or rejected. You're making sure it doesn't really lie in your bosom, because at the end of the day, it's the numbers which will count. You may decide to encourage all your members not to vote in a particular direction, but still the majority will decide.
That's the NPP MP for Equiapim South, Obi Amwa. Now, the appointment committee is vetting 4 other nominees today, including the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister designated Thomas Mbamba, whose session lasted for less than 10 minutes. Joseph Opokugakpo joins us on the line. So, Joseph, what exactly did he do in 10 minutes?
He's been talking about Ghana's election to the United Nations Security Council, which he says is a very good thing for the nation in terms of how we play out with our activities in the international domain. But the interesting thing with his vetting is that he was brought back for re-vetting because the minority MPs came in a little late. They say they weren't aware that there was even supposed to be a vetting on Friday. Today as well, they came in a little late. So after he had been discharged, Muntaka Mubarak insisted they had questions for him, and he was brought back to then respond to various questions. And he says he will do his best to support his minister to better lift Ghana's image in the international arena.
And that's definitely lasted more than 10 minutes, I'm sure. Okay.
Let me say that again for me.
I was saying that next session must have lasted more than 10 minutes.
Well, it's still very much ongoing. Muntaka Mubarak and others have been asking him questions about how the Ghana Post, for example, can be revived because he had worked at the Ghana Post for quite some years now, and also about some of the controversies around vaccine acquisition as far as the international domain is concerned and COVID-19.
And who are the other nominees being vetted today?
We are expecting that 2 others, specifically 3 others, including one of the deputy ministers headed to the Ministry of Roads and Highways, will be appearing before the committee today, and then there will be the final bit tomorrow, God willing.
That's Joseph Opokugakpo, parliamentary correspondent there. Now, the Auditor General is unhappy money allocated by central government for development under the District Assembly's Common Fund was rather used by the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly for the payment of judgment debt and in some instance used on recurring expenditure. The findings are containing a management letter on District Assembly's Common Fund and other statutory funds of Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly for the year ended 31st December 2020. Elton Brobe has more in this report.
The Auditor General knows that the management of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly used the District Assembly Common Fund allocation to settle judgment debt totaling 670,000 Ghana cedis to 4 contractors, namely Caricon Company Limited, Sapso Construction Limited, Sabuatu Enterprise, and Osborne Enterprise. In all cases, the Assembly defaulted in the payment of the contractual debt, which the contractor sought legal action against the Assembly, with the court awarding judgment debt in favor of the contractors. To the Auditor General, the inability of management to honor payment obligation to the contractors at the due date, as well as failure on the part of management to resort to arbitration instead of court settlement, resulted in the huge debt. The report says the use of the District Assembly Common Fund to pay judgment debt, which were not budgeted for, deprived the Assembly the needed funds to provide needed amenities to improve the living conditions of their constituents. Also, guidelines for the utilization of District Assembly Common Fund for 2019 fiscal year. District assemblies are required to spend not more than 20% of the allocation on administration. But review by the Auditor General of Disbursement from the Assembly Common Fund, however, reviewed that management of the KMA disbursed more than 20% of the allocation on administration without justification. It blames lack of effective control to curtail recurrent expenditure, coupled with the availability of funds in the District Assembly Common Fund accounts as cause of the non-compliance to the guidelines.
Elton Brobe with that report. This is the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Top story so far. Stranded technical university students across the country unhappy with strike by members of TUTAC, arguing the industrial action will worsen the already disrupted academic activities. We've also been hearing from government revealing that it's in talks with countries including US and China to procure more vaccines, as scientists express concern about the involvement of third party in acquiring the drugs from Russia. After that, after the break, we have sports, and then also later in the bulletin we'll hear from musician Akwabwa with his latest release, Ensisa, which has been on the YouTube trending list.
The wise men follow the star just like I followed my heart and I found a miraculous you. Intriguing, exciting, most of it all.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ikuya Anderson. I'm from the Ghana Statistical Service. I'm a census official, and I'm here to count you and your household members for the 2021 Population and Housing Census.
Hey, you people, you come to count us all the time, but we get nothing out of this. Do I even have time?
Daddy, please check your ID card and letter in. We must be counted. It's very important.
You see, the data they collect is for various purposes. To know the total number of people in the country, the characteristics, housing conditions and stuff, to inform policy. The data in school.
The 2021 Population and Housing Census will leave no one behind. The census night is 27th June. Counting of all persons who spend the census night in Ghana will be conducted from that night to 11th July. Before then, all structures will be assigned unique numbers and basic information collected on them and their occupants from 13th to 25th June. The 2021 Population and Housing Census. You count, get counted.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time for sports. Hello, Hans.
Hi, MFA. Sports medical practitioner Dr. Prince Pambo has raised doubts about the capacity of some of the country's football match venues to handle incidents of sudden cardiac arrest during games. This comes after varying public opinions regarding Danish midfielder Christian Eriksen, who collapsed during his country's Euro 2020 opener against Finland. Dr. Pambo said the only facilities in the country equipped to deal with sudden cardiac arrest are the Accra and Kumasi stadia.
I've done a lot of research in this area. So the incidence of sudden cardiac arrest leading to sudden cardiac death, it's more common among Black West Africans. I believe if this had happened at the Accra Sports Stadium, this player would have had a chance of living just as he's living, because many years ago, we were able to make a case to kind of have a medical directorate at the Accra Sports Stadium under the National Sports Authority. And as I speak to you now, the Accra Sports Stadium is one of the ambulance stations in the country in Accra. Kumasi Sports Stadium, it would have happened. Now, what I can't say for sure is what would have happened at the other league centers. And then also what I can't say for sure, it's the competence of some of the medical bench of some of our clubs. So that is also another point to want to re-emphasize.
As I'm sports medical practitioner, Dr. Prince Pambo.
What a weekend it was with the Euros 2020.
Absolutely.
What games are we expecting
really exciting,
today?
Apart from, of course, Christian Eriksen. But
yeah.
Today on radio, we bring you Sweden versus Spain. George and Gary will be on at 6:40 p.m. On TV, though, we've got exciting selected matches that we'll be bringing to you. We brought you that game involving England and Croatia yesterday. And on Joy Prime, of course, we bring you a lot more of the games throughout the competition.
Thank you very much, Hans Mensando. And the Fix the Country campaigners say they are hopeful of obtaining judicial blessing for their planned street protest, which has been outstanding for weeks. The group says it will, in the interim, continue to mobilize in preparation. The last few weeks has seen the group barred by a court order from protesting. This order was set aside by the Supreme Court, but another application seeking to stop the protest remains outstanding. This was to be heard this morning, but a late filing of documents resulted in an adjournment of the matter to June 21. There's more of that on myjoyonline.com. It's time for Showbiz, and Mapizzo Sabidi joins me in studio.
Let's put our phones away and go don't just hold me tight.
So that's the latest song from musician Akwaba, and it's a love song that preaches the message of not changing your good habits, and it's been trending on YouTube. It has a beautiful music video, and that's how we're starting our showbiz for the week, MFM.
So don't go changing this week, and that's it for the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Stick with me, don't change. And top stories on My Joy Online. Auditor General indicts former Inshai's OMP over failure to recover 500,000 K of Assembly's Common Fund. We also have live update of Appointments Committee resumes vetting of Deputy Ministers designate. Fix the Country case adjourned over late filing of document. Auditor General indicts KMA. And we also have Sir John's funeral. Government begins monitoring persons who participated in that. We've been hearing from Insia Sari on it. Living Word with Pastor Mensel Tabil. Wisdom Part 16 is up next. I am MF Pao. Thanks for your company.